T.T.I.M.E. Time Travel Investigations Made Easy by Professor Sam Butler, Erewhon University. Preface by a friend of the family. A tribute and a warning. This preface has a dual purpose. Firstly, to honor the family of Dr. Samuel Butler and their sacrifices, and to warn those who may seek to use these techniques to time travel to take precautions, for the same forces that caused the Butlers so much grief exist today and will seek to suppress the truth Time Investigations reveals. In 2009, 1 week before my friend Sam was going to make public this time travel manual, the tragic news of his son's heroic death shocked us into temporary immobility. Shocked us, I say, meaning Sam's friends, not Sam himself, who quietly prepared to erase any trace of his or his granddaughter's electronic footprint on this planet. 6 days after the accident, and 3 nights after Sam Jr.'s body was released to the grieving family, I was awakened by a persistent hammering on the door of our small apartment in southern Germany. Sam stood impatiently in the doorway, clutching the manuscript that follows. He was agitated and disheveled, something I had never seen in this usually preternaturally calm mathematical genius. And out on the street, through the so often present German drizzle, I could just make out his beloved Mercedes CLS, engine running, back seat piled high, with a petite figure in the passenger seat. He pushed his way in and again, uncharacteristically, exploded in a torrent of words, offered in short bursts and sobs, as he seemed to be perpetually out of breath. "I haven't much time. They did it. I did it. I played back Sammy's last memories." And now he was sobbing. "They thought it was me. That's why they took him." And then, in only the grief-stricken way a father can, who unexpectedly outlives his children, he described how they had proceeded to waterboard Sam Jr. to elicit the time travel knowledge the two of them had worked on for the past 3 years. But the interrogation was cut short as Sammy, as we called him, decided to end the session using the techniques they had both mastered to terminate his own life, but not before leaving a message for his father. "I didn't suffer much, Dad. Don't let them catch you. Tell little sis I love her. Goodbye. I love you. Don't give up on the Eldil." Then Sam thrust the manuscript that follows into my hand, and he made me promise not to release it until he and his granddaughter Kara couldn't be touched. He seemed so agitated and afraid, and after all, as great as his discovery is for mankind, it was his to release. So I, of course, agreed, and as we said a hasty goodbye, and as I heard the roar of the departing Mercedes, I doubted I should ever see him again, but I silently prayed that he should find peace. I have kept that promise till today. Blue Fern Collegiate, where Sam and I first met, is situated in southern Germany, and annually my wife and I journey there to aid with staffing and the school opening. Amidst the joyous greetings and reunions every year, there is usually late-arriving mail we receive on our return, and I hardly paid attention as the receptionist handed me a crumpled, stained envelope with an Australian stamp. Only this week I examined it and noticed it was from an obscure postmark from a place called T.T.I.M.E. This tiny village is just far enough away from mysterious Ayers Rock to avoid all the tourist traffic that inundates the nearest town, Alice Springs. Alice Springs thrives each year as the curious and the bored come to view Ayers, this strange, unexplained outcropping said to be the home of the gods. They buy T-shirts and paperweights and go on helicopter rides to Ayers without, I think, much thought to its otherworldly significance. At the time, however, none of these peculiarities about the letter caught my attention, and I shoved the envelope into my anorak as 3 more friends came down the school hallway to renew acquaintances with smiles and greetings. And, what with the unpacking and settling in, it wasn't until we boarded the plane again for our return journey to Canada that I again wore our traveling gear, including the anorak, And even then, with the boarding passes and last-minute checks of baggage, it is only now that I open the letter and realize Sam has given his consent to release the information which will allow citizens, especially in this era of fake news, to find the truth behind the media narrative. Just a couple of explanations to clarify both the meaning of Sam's letter and to update the technical information found in the accompanying Part 2 How to Time Travel Instruction Manual. Firstly, the reliability and accuracy of the so-called glucotrans device that he and his son had used has been greatly improved, and this will reduce the risk of brain damage to the time traveler. Secondly, the now seemingly primitive device Sam and Sammy had used to communicate has now been replaced with a host of new devices which will allow the transmission of actual English sentences rather than the simple binary code messages that they employed. The mathematics, of course, has not really changed, so erstwhile travelers should have a fair grasp of second-year integrations and topology before subjecting themselves to the physical stressors outlined in the manual. Beyond that, and as originally planned, I've decided to still use the pseudonyms Sam had created for his own name and the names of other individuals and places. For although, sadly, his family no longer needs this protection, it is an effort to shield some mutual friends from the too intense probing into their personal lives that the release of this information could generate. After all, the following time travel techniques can be used anywhere, and there is no need for the microscope to focus on one small German village. Also, in order to better explain Sam's hastily written note from T.T.I.M.E, I should like to give you some background information. Blue Fern Collegiate is situated in southern Germany, and most of the students have parents working as Christian relief workers in Europe and North Africa. However, about 20% are embassy personnel and expatriates who are seeking a top-rated English-speaking school close to their employment. I met Sam in 1987 at his first parent-teacher meeting. He had enrolled his kids, Sam Jr. and Crystal, at Blue Fern, since he worked in Basel, Switzerland. I found out later the kids were still grieving the loss of their mother the year before. Sam had resigned from his professorship in Canada to take up an offer at 3 times his university salary. I think, however, he mostly just wanted a new beginning. I was Sam Jr.'s AP Calculus teacher, and given Sam's opening questions regarding curriculum, I quickly realized I was dealing with someone with more than a passing knowledge of the subject. Later, as we became good friends, Sam and I had many a good-humored discussion of my crazy Christian beliefs, which at first he treated with ridicule, but which, because of our mutual interest in mathematics and the positive interactions with his kids and other Christian teachers, he came to respect, if not embrace. Even after Sammy and some months later Crystal told their dad that they too had rethought their former assured atheism and had changed their minds, he had accepted this with equanimity. BFC actively encourages students to challenge all views, religious and or atheistic, and it was, I think, this noticeable change in the kids that had had the most effect on Sam. Crystal had always been polite and studious, though, like her dad, somewhat standoffish. Now she showed a compassion and a care for her classmates that was hard to ignore. Sammy, always the handsome, athletic, bon vivant and secret heartthrob of many of the senior girls, became an even more sought-after prize when he embraced his spiritual side. He had become a stunning example of integrity and determination to students and staff alike. He was our senior valedictorian, and after training as a paramedic and until his murder, he had taken part in worldwide disaster relief efforts, including 9/11. After graduation, Crystal had trained as a nurse. She married a BFC alumni and served with her husband in the Sub-Sahara at an AIDS clinic until their death at the hands of the Boko Haram. Their one daughter, Kara, then an infant, had been hidden under a cot. When the authorities arrived, her pathetic cries alerted them to the fact that there was life in the midst of that scene of death and butchery. Sam had adopted his granddaughter, and along with Uncle Sammy, both men doted on Little Sis, as Sammy called her. Kara attended Blue Fern from 2006 to 2009, while Sam worked with Sammy on perfecting time travel. Occasionally, I provided feedback as to how a member of the general public might better understand their rather high-flown language. Yet the full meaning of Sam's Australian letter only became clear after I was able to contact the local mayor of T.T.I.M.E. The townspeople's knowledge was sketchy. This strange professor and his pretty daughter had arrived mysteriously about 3 years ago. They immediately purchased a Bushy Diggs remote home, some 10 miles out of town. Kara became virtually Sam's only contact with the town, as he had become an almost complete recluse. The mayor told me that Kara's brief visits to town for provisions caused quite a stir in that drab little community, as her friendly greeting and demeanor charmed them all. The mayor became animated, however, describing what had happened shortly before Sam sent me the letter. Kara had died in a flash flood while attempting to deliver a food package to an even more remote Bushy family, some 60 miles further away. The townspeople had told Kara that they feared the family might have starved for lack of tucker, food. The roads were almost impassable, and no one had been willing to mount a rescue operation. But Kara had immediately swung into action, practically emptying T.T.I.M.E's general store of everything edible. And despite the dire warnings of the townsfolk, she took off down the dirt track that served as a road to the stranded family. Ironically, when they found Kara's Land Rover hopelessly mired in the riverbed, the basket and her little note with the cheerful smiley face and the words, "Remember, God loves you," was perfectly preserved under a tarp on the roof of the rover. Thus, Sam's hastily scrawled note had read, "I still don't understand your God. Crystal, Sammy, now Kara. They all believe they took them instead of me. Why? But I'm going to Ayers to ask the Eldil. But I've got nothing more to lose. So release the findings. Give them hell." So what follows is the prepared script from 11 years ago. An additional note. The mayor of T.T.I.M.E. did say one other interesting thing. Since October 26, 2019, Ayers Rock has officially and permanently been closed to the general public. The postmark on Sam's letter is October 19th, just 1 week earlier, when Sam set out from T.T.I.M.E. for Ayers Rock in his quest for answers. I hope, Sam, like Sammy, you have found the peace. Now, just as an aside to those listening to this preface, once Sam's method is released, like the virus now plaguing our world, it will be impossible to silence. As COVID-19 has proven, we are all connected. With suitable samples, you will be able to separate fact from fiction as you travel back through time. But be careful, some will try to stop you. As for our kin, there will be little danger once the word is out. But for now, just call me a friend of the family.